Hello, everyone. My name is Erin Daggermansion. I am a programming coordinator here at Loudoun County Public Library. Thank you for coming and welcome to Social Security and Retirement with Sita Slavov. She is a professor at the Schar. Is it Schar? Is it pronounced Schar? Okay. At the Schar School of Policy and Government, where she specializes in public finance and the economics of aging, including older people's work and retirement decisions, Social Security, and tax reform. She has previously served as a senior economist specializing in public finance issues at the White House's Council of Economic Affairs. She was also a member of the 2019 Social Security Technical Panel on Assumptions and Methods, and she has taught at Occidental College. Professor Slavov has testified before Congress on issues relating to Social Security, and her work has appeared in peer-reviewed journals such as the Journal of Health Economics, the Journal of Public Economics, the Journal of Human Relations, and the Journal of Public Economic Theory. And in addition to her scholarly work, she has been published in the popular press, including New York Times, Los Angeles Times, Real Clear Policy, Real Clear Markets, U.S. News, World Report, and the Chronicle of Higher Education. And Professor Slavov received her PhD in economics from Stanford University and her BA from the College of William and Mary. Please join me in welcoming Professor Slavov.
Great. Thank you so much for that introduction. So I'm assuming everyone can hear me okay? Like that's okay. All right, great. So we will go ahead and get started. So I am going to address two basic questions in this talk. The first question, this is an important issue for everyone. It's going to be kind of general. What is the future of the Social Security program? And then the second question I'm going to address, and this is a little bit more based on my research, is, and it's an important issue for people who are, say, 55 and older, who are getting close to that age where they're going to be eligible for Social Security. And the question that I'm going to address is, when should you start receiving Social Security? And how can you effectively combine Social Security with any other retirement saving you may have? So if you're 55 or older, or if you know someone who is, these questions will be very relevant to you, hopefully. Okay, so let's get started with that first question. So I'm going to put up a graph here. Many people, you might have seen in the media, many people are talking about Social Security being bankrupt or in trouble or insolvent. So what does that mean exactly? Now, I don't like dramatic words like bankrupt, so I'm just going to stick to kind of presenting some facts about the program's finances. So basically, the Social Security trustees project that the program has enough money to pay promised benefits through 2034. Now, the Social Security system is run largely on a pay-as-you-go basis. So what does that mean? That means that the money for benefits comes largely from current payroll tax revenue that the program receives. Okay, but payroll tax revenue that's coming in, that's not enough to cover the full amount of benefits. So the remainder of benefits comes out of the Social Security Trust Fund, which has been accumulated in the past during years in which benefit payments were below incoming tax revenue. Now, when benefits get paid out of the trust fund obviously shrinks. We're drawing down on the trust fund. So what exactly does this graph show? Well, if you see kind of this solid line here that turns into a dotted line, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but I'm kind of highlighting it. This solid line that kind of eventually turns into a dotted line, that shows the evolution of total promised benefits in the program. And you kind of see that it's increasing, and that's due to demographics. So the retirement of baby boomers, the general downtrend in population growth, right? And then the solid line below this, right? So that's this solid line here that I'm kind of pointing out, and it's kind of flatter. That represents incoming revenue from payroll taxes. Now we're here where this horizontal line is, right? So right around this report is from 2022. And notice that at this point, benefit payments exceed incoming tax revenue. Okay, so which means that the remainder comes out of the trust fund. Now, in 2034, the Social Security trustees project that the trust fund will be exhausted. Okay, so at this point, incoming payroll tax revenue will be sufficient to cover about 80% of benefits. So, if you look at current law, what does it say? Current law says if no action's taken, the program has to cut expenditures to bring them in line with revenue. So this is what the bold solid line shows. So in 2034, you kind of see this horizontal drop, right? This horizontal drop. And then after that, the bold line kind of matches the line showing incoming revenue. So, that shows the cut in benefits that would happen under current law if no action is taken. And it's kind of unclear what form that cut in benefits could take. Could be an across-the-board benefit cut. It could be just like a delay in benefit payments. That's basically like a benefit cut. It's like, you telling your credit card company you're not going to pay them this month. You're going to delay paying them. Now, 80% of benefits, so that's a 20% benefit cuts. That's a pretty big cut in benefits. Imagine putting your money in a retirement account and when you try to withdraw it, being told there's only 80% of it remaining. And it's pretty harsh because it would involve cutting benefits for current beneficiaries. So people who have claimed benefits and they're relying on those benefits for their retirement income. Now, I want to be very clear. I don't think that's what's actually going to happen because that outcome, a 20% cut in benefits for current beneficiaries, that's politically unacceptable. So what that suggests is, in fact, that lawmakers will need to act. They'll need to take some kind of action before that trust fund exhaustion date to deal with the program's financial shortfall. Okay, so what are the reform options that are out there? Well, the arithmetic of Social Security reform is fairly straightforward, but it does present difficult and politically unpopular choices. So as far as the arithmetic goes, Social Security finances are simple. Social Security finances depend on 4 variables, right? The first is the payroll tax rate. Okay, and then that payroll tax rate is applied to the average worker's wage, right? So that's the second variable. So together, these 2 variables determine how much money the average worker is paying into the system. Okay, the third variable is the average benefit level. So how much is the average beneficiary of Social Security receiving? The fourth variable is the dependency ratio. Okay, and the dependency ratio is the number of beneficiaries divided by the number of workers. In other words, how many people are receiving benefits compared to how many people are paying in. Now, these 4 variables determine the finances of the system. Okay, and when the system gets out of balance, one of these 4 things, at least one, has to change to bring it into balance. Now, it's going to be difficult to make major changes to the dependency ratio. That depends really on demographics or to the average worker's wage, right? So that depends on the technology we have in the economy and stuff like that. You may be able to make small changes to these variables via immigration or policies that boost labor force participation or productivity, but they're not going to be huge. So fundamentally, this is not a problem we can grow our way out of. So the bottom line is we got to look at those other 2 variables, benefits and taxes. Either benefits need to be cut or taxes need to be increased. Now, people talk about raising the eligibility age for Social Security as if that's kind of a different option. It's really not a different option. It amounts to a cut in benefits. You're telling someone, you're going to collect benefits over fewer years, right? So the politics of this are hard because reform is going to require difficult choices. I have argued in the past that this shortfall should be addressed sooner rather than later. Now, I think people who are 55 and older, they don't need to worry. Any credible reform plan is generally going to protect people who are close to retirement because they don't have a lot of time to adjust. Now, if you're 55, you may be affected by higher payroll taxes, but that's only going to apply to you for like 10-ish years. Your benefits are likely going to be left alone. Now, this is not true for younger people. So younger people will either end up paying higher taxes over more working years, or they will get lower benefits in the future. They're going to essentially get a worse deal from Social Security than previous generations. But I would argue that putting in place a plan to deal with that shortfall sooner rather than later will help younger generations because it will reduce the uncertainty they face as they plan for retirement. So that's kind of my overview of the finances and the future of Social Security. Now, clearly, so the politics are hard, and the shortfall should be addressed sooner rather than later to protect younger people. So clearly, what this suggests is that Social Security plays a major role in retirement security. I've got some statistics here for 40% of people age 65 and older, Social Security accounts for at least 50% of their retirement income. And for 14% of people age 65 and older, so that's a minority, but that's a significant minority, Social Security accounts for 90% or more of their retirement income. So it's an important source of retirement security. And this brings us to the second part of this talk, which is how can people approaching retirement get the most out of Social Security? So this is going to be based on some research that I've done over, say, the past 10 or so years. Now, Social Security retired worker benefits can be claimed at any age between 62 and 70. There is an actuarial adjustment that's made for delayed claiming. Right. So in other words, the earlier you claim, the smaller your monthly benefits will be. And the idea behind that adjustment is that, given that you're going to live to say 80, 85, 90 or whatever, the idea is to adjust for the fact that when you claim earlier, you're going to receive benefits for more months. Now, what my research has shown is that many people can increase the lifetime value of their benefits through delaying Social Security. And the gains from delay amount to, tens of thousands of dollars and sometimes even more. Why is it possible for people to increase the lifetime value of their benefits through delay? Well, first of all, this is a pretty recent phenomenon. It's something that's only been true in the past 20 years or so. And what's happened in the past 20 years? Well, first of all, people are living longer. That's kind of a general trend. So mortality has decreased. And, that decrease in mortality makes it worth it to delay. Okay, the second thing that's happened in the past 20 years is the Social Security rules have changed. The formula that determines how much more you get if you delay Social Security, that's become more generous. Okay, and then the third thing that has influenced the gains from delay is that, in the past 10 years or so, real interest rates, that's interest rates net of inflation. So adjusted for inflation have been quite low. Okay, and I'll explain a little more about that later. The lifetime value of delay can be increased. The lifetime value of Social Security can be increased through delay. And that is especially true for couples. Okay, and it's especially true for the primary earner in a couple. And the reason for that is the primary earner can pass on their higher benefits to their spouse if their spouse outlives them. Okay, and that's the Social Security survivor benefit. Okay, so I'll explain a little more, kind of elaborate on this in the next few slides. So what do most people actually do? What choices do people actually make when it comes to claiming their Social Security benefits? Well, it turns out that most people claim Social Security either at age 62 or when they stop working, whichever is sooner. Okay, so this histogram here, what this shows is it shows the number of months that are elapsed between either reaching age 62 or stopping work and claiming Social Security. So what it suggests, you see this big chunk of lines here between like 0 and 3 months. What it shows is that the vast majority of people claim Social Security within a couple months of turning age 62 or stopping work. Okay, in fact, many people even use the term retirement as a synonym for claiming Social Security. The Social Security Administration does this too. And one point that I want to make in this talk is that this does not have to be the case. So this histogram shows what people actually do. What could people do? What people could do is they could separate their retirement and Social Security claiming decisions. Right? Because if you delay Social Security, you end up with a larger monthly benefit. For many people, this is going to result in a larger amount of income over their lifetime. Now, the natural question might be here, if you've stopped work, what do you do for money while you delay Social Security? Well, one suggestion is to consider using any other retirement saving you have to bridge the gap. So if you have like money in a 401k, you could use that to bridge the gap. Now, if you don't have saving, working longer could be an option. But if you do have saving, that is what you might want to consider. So how much do your benefits go up if you delay from Social Security? Well, this table tells you something about that. Okay, and if you look at these red numbers that are kind of on the bottom of this table horizontally, right? So they show the age that you are now, and you're considering deferring Social Security from that age to another age. Okay, and these green numbers, these vertical numbers, they show the age that you defer to. Okay, so for example, if you're 62, so if you look at the red 62, and you are considering delaying to age 70, so if you go up to age 70 and look at the green number 70, what this table shows is that your benefits will increase by 77%, your monthly benefits. Okay, if you're 62 and you delay to age 65, your monthly benefits go up by 24%. Okay, so you can look up in this table, how much your monthly benefits will go up if you delay from any age to any age. If you're 66 and you delay to 67, for example, your monthly benefits go up 7%. Right, so you can look up any deferral period in this table. Okay, so why is delaying Social Security a good deal? I alluded to the fact that one of the reasons it's such a good deal is that real interest rates are low. Okay, so why is that, or why does that make delaying Social Security such a good deal? Well, when you delay Social Security, you're giving up money today in exchange for more money in the future. Okay, so how do you evaluate whether this is a good deal? It depends on the interest rate. Okay, and one way to think about this is what you could do with the money if you had it today. Well, if you had the money, you could save it. You could put it in a bank account and earn some interest, right? So that's the role of the interest rate. Okay, an alternative way to think about it is if you're using, say, money that you have in a 401k to finance the delay of Social Security, it matters what kind of return, what rate of return you could have earned in your 401k on your other retirement saving if you had left them where they are. Right? So the interest rate, okay, the rate of return that you could earn on money today, that represents the cost of delaying Social Security. Now, Social Security is a government guaranteed inflation indexed obligation, right? And the average period of retirement is like 20 to 30 years, right? You retire maybe in your mid 60s and you live to maybe your mid 80s. So a reasonable interest rate to use, I would argue, and this is what we've used in the research that I've done, is the interest rate on 20-year inflation-protected government bonds. Right, so that's an apples to apples comparison because inflation-protected government bonds, that's an inflation-indexed obligation of the US government, just like Social Security. Okay, so what this graph shows you is the interest rate on inflation-indexed government bonds, so 20-year TIPS, Treasury inflation protected securities, since a little bit before 2006 through today. And what you see is up until about 2010, this interest rate has hovered around 2%. Okay, after 2010, it kind of declined to 1% or even less and kind of hovered around there until we hit the pandemic in 2020 and it went even negative. Okay, and since the pandemic, it's come back. Okay, it's kind of increased. And it's a little above 1%, like 1.5% today, but it's still low by historical standards. It's below that 2% that it's kind of hovered at historically. Okay, now you might ask, well, you're saying this is a low interest rate. Hasn't the Fed been increasing interest rates? And yes, and that's partly why we see that recent increase, but it hasn't gone all the way back up to 2%. Okay. Moreover, what the Fed has been doing is increasing nominal interest rates. That is the interest rate that you earn before inflation. What's shown here is a real interest rate. It's what you earn after adjusting for inflation. It is possible when there's high inflation, as today, for real interest rates to stay low, even if nominal interest rates rise. Okay, and the second question you might ask is, well, why are we looking at interest rates on safe investments like government bonds? Like, those are really low. If I had the money now, if I claimed Social Security now, or if I left that money in my 401k, I could invest in stocks and get a much better return than 1.5%. And, maybe you could, right? But also maybe not, because you could also lose a lot of money investing in stocks. In other words, when you invest in stocks, you're taking on considerable risk. Okay, so comparing that to Social Security, which is an inflation-indexed obligation of the US government, that's not an apples-to-apples comparison, right? Because you're getting higher returns, but you're also taking on higher risk. So that's why we're kind of focusing on this safe interest rate, the interest rate on inflation-indexed government bonds. Okay, another reason why delaying Social Security is such a good deal is that people are living longer today. So this table, what it shows is it shows the remaining life expectancy for men and women in their 60s. Okay, and I put this table together several years ago, but this stuff doesn't change dramatically over a couple of years, so it's still fairly accurate for today, right? So if you are 62 and you're a man, in average health, you can expect to live almost 22 additional years. If you're 62 and you're a woman, you can expect to live a little over 24 additional years. Okay, so life expectancy, this is life expectancy today, and it's gone up quite dramatically over the past decades. Now, this is, if you're part of a couple, it's thinking about life expectancy is a little bit more complicated because one of you might outlive the other. And when you're planning for retirement, you need a plan for the widow. Right. So, what I've looked at here in this table is a couple where you have a husband who's age 62, right? That's the first row, and a wife who's age 60. Okay. And what I've done here is I've calculated the expected number of years until the first member of the couple dies. Okay. And that first person to die is more likely to be the husband, but it could also be the wife. And the expected number of years to that first death is almost 18. Okay, so the couple as a couple, they're likely to continue as a couple alive together for another 18 years. Okay, and then beyond that, the second death is expected to occur in almost 30 years. So in other words, if you take a couple where the husband is age 62 today and a wife is age 60, okay, the couple is they're expected to both be alive for almost 18 years. And then the widow, whoever the survivor is expected to live for an additional 12 years. So, if you're a couple, you need to plan for like a 30-year retirement. Okay, so 18 years where you're both alive, an additional 12 years for the widow. Right, okay, so it turns out when you do the math, delaying Social Security is a really, really good deal if you are the higher earner in a couple. Okay, and that's because Social Security survivor benefits are based on the higher of the two benefits in the couple. Okay, so if you're widowed, you have the option to switch to your spouse's benefit if it's higher than your own. Okay, and that survivor benefit that you receive, if you switch to your spouse's benefit, it's called a survivor benefit. That survivor benefit that you receive, that's going to depend on when your spouse claimed, right? So if your spouse claimed early, that's the benefit you're going to get. You're going to get that lower benefit. If your spouse delayed to age 70, you're going to get that enhanced benefit. Okay, so what that means is it means that the higher earner's benefit is paid out as what's called a second to die or a joint and survivor annuity. What that means is the payment continues until the second person in the couple dies. Okay, so that's what makes it such a good deal for the higher earner in a couple to delay, right? It gets paid out over that, that 18 years that they're alive together as a couple, as well as that additional 12 years for the widow. And that makes deferring Social Security a really, really good deal for the higher earner in a couple. Okay, so the calculations in the papers I've published on this suggest that, and these were calculations that were done in a paper from 2017, but they're still fairly accurate today. And what they suggest is if you're a single man in average health, you should defer to maximize your lifetime benefits to age 69. And you would gain about $33,000 over your lifetime, or about 12% higher overall benefits. If you're a single woman in average health, if you want to maximize the lifetime value of your benefits, you should defer to age 70. You'd gain more than $50,000 over your lifetime. And these calculations, they kind of use these recent low interest rates, that interest rate of like 1%-ish. But it turns out that even if interest rates were closer to their historical average, that 2%, maximizing lifetime benefits would imply that men should delay to age 67 and women to age 68. Okay, now if you're a couple in average health, and you've got a 62-year-old husband and a 60-year-old wife, what we've shown is to maximize the lifetime value of benefits, the husband, who we assumed in our calculations was the primary earner, should defer to age 70. It doesn't matter so much when the lower earner, the wife, starts benefits. Our simulations say it should be about 65, but it doesn't really matter so much if she starts at 62 or 70. And if the couple optimizes their claiming in this way, they gain almost $90,000. And it turns out, and this was again using those low interest rates, it turns out even when interest rates are close to their historical average, the primary earner should delay to age 70. Okay, so I'm going to show you, just to illustrate this a little bit further, a case study from a recent paper that we did. And this is, it assumes we've got a husband and a wife, age 62, and they're in average health and they've stopped working. Okay, and they've got some money stashed in a 401k, about $200,000 in a 401k. And I'm going to contrast two strategies that they can use to take advantage of what's available to them, their Social Security as well as their 401k. So what I'm going to call the parallel strategy is where they start Social Security, both of them at age 62, and they take the money in their 401k and they buy an annuity. And an annuity would pay them monthly income for the remainder of their life. And we kind of assume they buy an annuity just to make the comparison easier. They don't actually have to buy the annuity. They could also just make periodic withdrawals from their 401k in this parallel strategy. And I'm going to compare that parallel strategy to the benefit maximizing strategy, which is where the husband defers to age 70 and the wife defers to age 65. Okay, so what this graph shows is it shows their income under the parallel strategy where they both start Social Security right away and they take the money in their 401k and they buy an annuity. The blue bars in the graph represent Social Security income. The red bars represent the annuity that they bought with their 401k, or it could also be periodic withdrawals from their 401k. Right, so you kind of see their income. And we've assumed in this calculation 2% inflation and a real interest rate, an interest rate net of inflation of 1.14%. Okay, we're going to compare that to the delay strategy. So what's the delay strategy? That's where the husband delays Social Security to age 70 and the wife starts Social Security at age 65. So if you look at the blue bars in this graph, right, so they start at age 65, and initially you just have the wife's Social Security benefits. At 70, the husband's Social Security benefits get added to that. Okay, so the blue bars become a lot bigger. And then if you look at the red bars, what are those? Those red bars represent withdrawals from the 401k. And what we've done in this case study is we've assumed that the couple withdraws enough money from their 401k to make up the difference in income compared to the parallel strategy between ages 62 and 69. Okay, and we kind of picked the couple's 401k balance, about $200,000, so it's just enough to make up that income. So it makes up the income between this strategy and the parallel strategy where they claim Social Security right away. Right, so by construction, their income is exactly the same under both strategies between 62 and 69. And then what you see is it's higher. It kind of jumps up at age 70. And in fact, this next graph shows the difference in income between the benefit maximizing strategy and the parallel strategy. So between 62 and 69, there's no difference. Okay, their income is identical because we've had them withdraw exactly enough money from their 401k to make up the difference to make their income identical. Okay, but starting at age 70, their income is substantially higher. Okay, under the benefit maximizing strategy, and that's because of that higher monthly benefit from Social Security. So it more than makes up for the fact that they've exhausted their 401k to delay Social Security. Okay, and the best part of this strategy is actually if the wife is widowed. So let's say the wife is widowed at age 70. Well, under the parallel strategy where they both claim at 62, what the wife gets is she gets the blue bars. Okay, and the blue bars include the husband's, Social Security benefit that gets passed on to her as a survivor benefit. The red bars plus the blue bars, okay, so the combined red and blue bars, that represents the widow's benefits under the delay strategy, under the benefit maximizing strategy. So she gets much higher income. And that turns out to be a better strategy for this couple, a better use of their retirement resources. Okay, so to summarize, the couple has, if you look at the benefit maximizing strategy, the same income between ages 62 and 69, okay? But starting at age 70 and from age 70 onwards, they've got between 10 and 21% more income per month. The survivor, the widow, enjoys between 28 and 39% more income. The children of the couple may benefit because there is less likelihood of their parents running into financial trouble, especially trouble for the widow. And so it turns out that for this hypothetical couple, deferring to age 65 for the wife and 70 to for the husband results in more retirement security than both of them claiming at age 62. Now, you may be saying, well, this is all well and good if you've got a bunch of money stashed in a 401k. What if you don't have other retirement saving? So I think it's a more complicated decision in that case. You could consider working longer. Okay, and that could be a way to delay Social Security and pay your living expenses in the meantime. But it's not, the decision is no longer just about maximizing maximizing your lifetime benefits from Social Security, because you'd want to weigh any benefits you get from delaying Social Security against the fact that you have to work longer, the fact that maybe you don't like working longer. And that may depend on how physically demanding or stressful your job is, how annoying are your coworkers or your boss, right? But I've done research that suggests that even an additional 1 or 2 years of work, if you use those 1 or 2 years to also delay Social Security, can have a very large impact on retirement income and retirement security. And, this is a strategy that someone can use even if they're approaching retirement and kind of wishing they had saved more, kind of looking back and saying, I really wish I'd saved more for retirement. I don't have enough. But well, the option to work 1 or 2 years longer and delay your Social Security is still available at this point. And it could be an option to consider. So I'm going to wrap up there. And then, I don't know if there are any questions or, yeah.
We do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
We've got one. It's what about the lost income of delaying? So their wife stopped working and hasn't started taking their Social Security. Is it going to take 8 years after she starts taking Social Security until they break even?
Yeah. So, I mean, one way to think about it is in terms of how long does it take to break even. Now, I don't necessarily, I mean, that's kind of not the way we've framed it in this work. What I've suggested is for this hypothetical couple, if they've got money in a 401k or other kind of retirement account, they can make up that income using that money, and they can enjoy higher income in every year of their life. Right, so that's kind of why it makes sense to delay.
Okay. Next question. What happens when both husband and wife die at the same time?
Yeah. So and that is a possibility. So at that point, there is no survivor benefit, right? And so you don't get the gains in that survivor benefit. Now, that's one possibility. If you're like approaching your 60s and you're planning for retirement, you do have to plan for, all the possibilities, including the fact that one person may outlive the other.
Okay. And then what happens for those who qualify for divorced spouse benefits?
Yes. Yeah, no, so that's a good question. That's not, and we've kind of looked at in this research kind of stylized people and haven't, fully considered divorce spouse benefits. Now that is something that you could also think about, when should I claim my divorce spouse benefits, right? And as you know, or you may or may not know, so you would qualify for divorce spouse benefits if your marriage lasted at least 10 years, right? Then you can claim spousal benefits based on your ex-spouse's earnings record, right? So you would also want to think carefully about when to claim those divorce spouse benefits.
Okay. And does anyone else, I think that's all the questions I had on my list. Does anyone else have any questions? You can put them in the chat or the Q&A. I think I got one. Let's see. So we have someone who's saying that your example seems to assume that the expenses of the couple will remain the same throughout that time period. Is that an accurate portrayal of the situation? Would that be true?
Yeah, so I think we're not necessarily assuming anything about their expense. What we're showing is their income, what their income would be. And their expenses can vary from year to year. They could take some of that income and save it, right? And if they anticipate like health expenses down the road, right? So they can kind of rearrange that income a little bit to account for changing expenses. Yeah.
All right. And then, okay, I don't see anything else. Do you know of any changes to Social Security since it is running in deficit? Do you know any like concrete changes that are happening? I know we covered this
That
a
are
bit in the
happening.
beginning.
Yeah. So nothing has happened yet, right? There are some proposals out there that would change the finances of Social Security. So there is, in Congress, there is the Social Security 2100 Act. So this is primarily sponsored by Democrats, and what it would do if passed, essentially it would actually increase Social Security benefits, but it would also increase Social Security taxes, especially on higher earners. And it would do that in a way that improves the program's finances, right? So that's one thing that's out there. I believe Republicans also have a proposal. There's a Republican Study Committee proposal. I don't know if anything's been introduced yet, but what Republicans have tended to focus on is lowering benefits for higher earners, not people who are close to receiving benefits, but for younger people, their future benefits. So it would tend to lower benefits for higher earners.
Okay. And then do divorce spouse benefits decrease the other's Social Security income?
The other meaning what social,
The,
like your
the
own
other,
benefit or?
I guess the ex-spouse? Is that
Yeah,
right?
no, it doesn't decrease your ex-spouse's benefits.
Okay.
Not at all. So it doesn't affect your ex-spouse's benefits. If your ex-spouse has remarried, it doesn't affect the ex-spouse's new spouse's benefits either.
And then can children claim any of the benefits of their parents if they are over 65 when their parents die?
If the children are over 65, I don't think so. No. So there is no benefit for an older child, like a 65-year-old child.
There is a benefit, and there is a benefit for children who are under 18,
Yes,
if I
correct.
recall.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. For dependent children, yes, there is a benefit.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, and then I guess I had a question. I had a question that's my own. So when we're talking about delaying, is there a chance, especially for people who are going to be in that 62 to 70 range in the 2030s, would there be a disadvantage to delaying, like if they start late and they go past when
Yeah,
Social
benefits
Security
get cut
runs
or
out?
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
is there that risk? So I don't think that's a real risk. And the reason I don't think that's going to be a risk is any Social Security reform plan, and there is going to be one, but any Social Security reform plan is going to exempt or hold harmless anyone who is like 55 and older. I think that's virtually guaranteed. So, if you're in your 60s and the 2030s, I don't think you need to worry.
Yeah, that was the one that came to mind. I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
some
No, and I think
relatives
that's
kind
a
of in that
concern a lot
range.
of people have. Yes.
Hey, does anyone else have any questions? I think that's everyone. Yep. Okay. Yes, I think that's everyone. So if there's no other questions, thank you all so much for coming. And thank you, Sita, for running us through all of those different scenarios and helping explain the Social Security process.
Yeah. No, thank you everyone for coming.
Yep. Thank you all. Again, this will be posted on our YouTube channel. It's Loudoun County Public Library online programs, probably within the week. So if you want to go over it again or a little bit confused, you can watch it again. And thank you very much. Feel free to check out our calendar for upcoming programs.
Bye
Have a
bye.
good day. Bye, everyone.